The entire reason that we save and invest when we're working is so that we have money to spend in retirement. And so it stands to reason that one of the big points of retirement is enjoying spending that money that you've accumulated. But the biggest challenge that most federal employees have is figuring out how to turn a large pile of money into that stream of income that's sustainable and predictable for the rest of your life. And as retirement planners, I can tell you that this is easier said than done because virtually every family's financial situation is a little different and requires precise adjusting to get right. And there are lots of retirement income strategies out there that help retirees spend their savings while mitigating the risk of running out of money. But we found that a lot of families don't know how to safely create their retirement income, or maybe they're not so sure how to accurately interpret their plan through various markets or life events. And we get it. Understanding all of the different retirement withdrawal strategies out there, finding one that fits your unique situation, following all of the rules in your plan, and properly implementing it year over year for possibly 30 or 40 years, that can all be very daunting. So inevitably, this means that a lot of federal retirees will gravitate towards something more simple like the 4% rule. But the problem with this is that it doesn't address one of the most significant threats to a retirement plan. So to help with this, we implement something called a dynamic withdrawal strategy. And unlike the 4%, which is a static withdrawal, dynamic retirement income strategies can help a retiree actually adjust their income rates depending on what's going on in their plan. Now, some of you might think, well, I really don't want to have to reduce my spending. But here's the thing, if you implement this correctly, this can allow you to have a higher spend rate than the 4% in the early years of retirement, so long as you're able to moderate slightly in years that would call for it. So it's not so much that you're doing less spending or having to reduce your normal lifestyle, it's more that you're actually maximizing the spend rates that are available to you in years that you can do so in a plan. And that neatly aligns with enjoying your retirement more and getting to spend more of the wealth that you've saved without risking your financial independence. When you first retire, you enter what we call your go-go years. You've got the most money you've ever had, the most time you've had, and you still have a whole lot of energy to just get up and go and do things in retirement that are exciting to you and that make you feel fulfilled. Well, all of that typically comes with some level of spending money, right? But creating a withdrawal strategy that allows you to spend higher levels in early retirement without jeopardizing your plan in the long run requires some advanced planning. All right, enough talking and let's get to how it works. There's two things that you need to determine in order for this to work. First, you have to figure out what level of investment return do you really need to be able to keep your lifestyle for the rest of your life. And then you need to figure out how much of your monthly spending and expenses falls into two buckets, the first being fixed and the second being discretionary. Your fixed expenses are things that you need to spend your money on. These are things like food and housing, gas, insurance. You've got some control over them, but you can't just eliminate them altogether from your life. Now, discretionary expenses are things that you do have full control over. So these would be things that you want to spend your money on if your plan allows for it, but they aren't necessary for you to be financially independent. So these would be things like travel and dining out, country clubs, philanthropy. And while we always want you to have room for these, and we do build these into a retirement plan, these are things that if push comes to shove and you're in a really bad situation, you could cut them out. Now, once you've got your expenses separated and you've figured out what your required investment return rate is, then you can create your parameters so that you have the ability to adjust your spending according to more discretion or less, while still making sure that all of your needs are still met. For example, to keep the numbers simple, let's say that all of your total monthly cash flows are $10,000, and this is fixed and discretionary combined. Now, from that, we will say that the fixed component is $6,000 a month, and your discretionary component is $4,000 a month. And let's say that this kind of spending theoretically requires a 6% withdrawal rate from your portfolio. Now, ordinarily 6% withdrawal rates are pretty high, but let's look at how this might actually be able to work out. So this means that for discretionary spending, you're looking at $48,000 a year, okay? And that was simply just $4,000 a month times 12 months equals $48,000 for the year in discretionary spending. So maybe that's two $10,000 trips that you have vacation planned for that year, and then the rest is just spent on monthly leisure. Again, this is just an example. But then let's say that we have a year like 2020 or 2022 and your portfolio is down something like 20%. In dynamic withdrawal strategies, you might be hitting a guardrail here because you would have set parameters that say, hey, if my portfolio is down X%, then that means that we need to proportionally reduce our discretionary spending, so things that we don't really need to spend money on or that we have a lot of control, by Y%. And remember, the only reason you're doing this is because you were actually spending much higher than would have been safe for you to spend when you had the opportunity and when your plan was calling for it. So you got to enjoy greater experiences and still without jeopardizing your economic safety. Now, does this mean you no longer have any discretionary spending? No, not at all. It simply might mean, hey, you know what? Instead of 2 $10,000 vacations, maybe we take that and we only do 1 this year. Or maybe we wait a little bit instead of doing that renovation if this was something that was brought up last minute and wasn't already built into our retirement plan. Now, remember that the same is true in reverse. Let's say that you determined your required rate of return annualized for your portfolio was also 6%. And let's say the following year, you actually earned 20%. That's great. So first, how does this 20% annualize the previous years? And now, how much more will you be able to spend and increase in life? How many more trips can you take? How much more dining out can you do, leisure or philanthropy, whatever it is that you desire? What is the parameter that you've built in that now allows you to do this extra spending because it's been built in within the system? And the beauty of the dynamic withdrawal system is that it allows a retiree to always and continually meet their required expenses to stay financially independent. They still get to have discretionary spending, but it also grants them a hall pass to have a mini spending spree in years that maybe their plan allows it because the markets were favorable or various other factors that could also influence this too. This is how we get retirees to really start enjoying those golden years and maximize that sense of fulfillment and purpose that comes with these years in retirement. Now, there's another important part to this, but before I do that, I want to ask you for 2 favors. First, if you found any value in this at all, please hit the thumbs up on this video for us. And second, if you can think of somebody that you think would find this valuable or really needs to hear this, then consider sharing it with them. You might have heard, but our goal is to help 300,000 federal employees by 2030. And the only way that we're going to accomplish this is with your help in sharing us with people you know. All right, so the other important part of a dynamic retirement income strategy is understanding how your portfolio aligns with it. Now, there's 2 things you want to watch here, and maybe you want to write them down. The first is your allocation, and the second is your rebalancing. If you know that you really want to do higher levels of spending, more traveling, more enjoyment in the first, say, 5 years of your retirement, then there are investment strategies that can help you generate that cash flow that you need for this kind of activity in a much more stable way than, say, having to wait until the markets are back up again. Having the right allocation can help you continually meet that goal without having to worry too much about what's going on in the overall markets. Now, again, to work properly, this does need a rebalancing system. Let's say that the equities position of your portfolio, so this would be stocks, becomes overweighted because of market performance. Well, what have you done? You have introduced a higher level of risk. You've also introduced greater volatility to your portfolio as well. And with greater volatility, also creates that sequence of returns risk that is really the biggest threat to a retirement plan for folks who are spending in retirement. So you have to make sure that you are systematically rebalancing to the allocation that is most appropriate at any given year. Now, your allocation should also change over time depending on what's going on in the world writ large as well as your life. But having this down allows you to continue to be able to take those withdrawals without a risk of running out of money. And folks, there's no one size fits all when it comes to retirement income planning. There's just too many variables that change with each family. And I hope that this gives you a better sense for how you can be thinking about your own retirement plan and how you're setting things up yourself. And check out these videos on your screen for more tips on planning a better retirement. Thanks for watching. And until next time, stay wise and stay wealthy.